Hello everyone, and I'm Autobot, the Telltale Gamer, a freelancer in Telltale Games, Transformers, and more, and welcome to a very special video where I am very happy to announce that I am here interviewing none other than Keyan Carlile, a great Transformers YouTuber and the creator of one of the most impressive Transformers fan projects I've ever seen, Transformers Combaticons. Keyan Carlile, thank you so much for coming on here, man. It really means a lot to me.
No problem. Thank you for doing this video. It saves me the work of making a long behind the scenes thing.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And again, after this, you're more than welcome to upload this interview to your channel as well if you want to. So why don't you go ahead and first off tell us our viewers a little bit about yourself in case for anyone who doesn't know you.
Yeah, my name is Keyan Carlile. I guess I've become a YouTuber. I don't know why.
That's just how we all do it, really. We just sort of waltz into it.
It just happened. Yeah, I didn't choose to be one. Well, I guess I did. But anyway, so it started, I was in high school. I guess I'll give the history of my channel. I started as a high schooler, and I was like, wow, it's a shame that Transformers Animated didn't get a 4th season. I know, I'll make one. And so with having never edited before or done anything before, I did like a storyboard 4th season that was all just hand drawings drawn on paper, and I had my high school theater friends voice all the characters, and it was like the worst thing anyone's ever seen. But it was like 16 episodes I did that were all like 22 to 29 minutes, and eventually I wrapped those up. Still hadn't reached 1,000 subscribers. I started animating stuff, and a lot more people were into Transformers animations, so I did that for a while. I animated like a few of the episodes, and I've just done a lot of like Transformers commentary, etc. Then eventually, kind of as an abrupt plot twist, my second channel, I started doing some like Disney Channel videos on that second, and it just exponentially increased. So now it's at 160,000. Like there was one singular day where I got like 3 times my entire Transformers channel subscriber base in just one day. So now I'm kind of known on the internet for like Disney Channel things. Still have this little like Transformers channel I'm doing things on. Eventually I transitioned. I was like, I want to do something with the Combaticons because I've always felt like they had so much potential as characters. They kind of just stood in the background and looked cool in the 80s. They had a few like little showcase episodes, but we didn't see much of them. Besides Swindle, who eventually took a life of his own in comics and animated. But I've always loved the Combaticons. In middle school, I was like, they should be the 5 main villains of a Transformers show, the way like every show at that time would just have the 5 Decepticons you follow. And eventually, I came up with the idea for like a Combaticons series in like 2018, and I was like, this could really work. This could be cool. And I just kind of like made like a pitch Bible as a junior in high school. And then that idea just sat in my mind until a couple of years ago, and I was like, I want to do something with this. I'm so much better at making things than I was in high school. I want to do something. So eventually I was like, I'm just gonna make a pilot. So I set forth on getting, storyboard artists, background designers, character designer. We went through the whole process, and then eventually I released the Transformers Combaticons pilot in March of this year. And I think this may have been a way too long introduction.
No, it's so fine. Honestly though, like I'm just looking through, like you've literally just answered maybe like the first like 5 to 7 questions I had for you. Like I have stuff here like, oh, how did you get into animation? How did you get into Transformers? What made you want to tell a story about the Combaticons of all groups of characters? So thank you for unintentionally answering all those questions. Definitely
you can still ask them if you want.
Okay, so to start off, so what made you want to get into animation of all things?
It was Transformers Animated and just wanting to like animate the characters doing stuff. So that started like right before my senior year of high school. There was like an old like Comic-Con kind of panel. I think it may have been a Comic-Con where a lot of the voice actors of animated just improv'd getting ice cream. And that was one of the first things I animated. I think the first thing was my nephew like playing with toys. Yeah, Megatron, and then I just animated over the top of it. That was my first ever animation.
Oh, that's adorable.
I know, I love that video. So I just kept going and animating Transformers animated things, and then now, eventually years later, I animate other things, and that's right.
That's absolutely incredible. And so kudos to you, man, for knowing exactly what you want to do and having the drive to do that. Because like as just a fellow content creator, I know how much hard it can be to want to like actually find that motivation. Like you have all these cool ideas, but you just really like, I don't really feel like doing this now. Maybe I can do it later. But then like it's really hard sometimes to try and find that motivation. And you should be really proud of yourself for actually managing it, and to not just make this incredible animation, but just make one that's so critically acclaimed by the whole fandom. So you should be really pat yourself on the back for that, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. So after that, so obviously everyone knows you in the fandom primarily as the TFA fan, that you're the ultimate champion of Transformers. You've not only uncovered one, but two lost pieces of media related to Transformers Animated, which is incredible in its own right. You seem to be such great friends with Marty Eisenberg, for a matter of fact. But aside from animated, what's your favorite other continuity in the Transformers franchise? It can be a comic, another show, the movies. You can say, if you want it to be easier, you can say what's your favorite art style in terms of continuities, and then what's your favorite like continuity in terms of story, if that makes it easier.
In terms of like Transformers art style, I think my favorite by far is Josh Burcham. He did IDW Beast Wars, like the more recent.
Yeah, one. The art. I got to meet him at New York Comic Con back in October. So cool. I got him to sign my copy of the Beast Wars 2022 annual. So good. And I loved a lot of his stories. He did a lot of artwork back in I believe it was the Robots in Disguise comics, not like based off RID 15, but the ones that were running at the same time as Mora Meets the Eye. He did a one of my favorite stories by him was they did the art was this one. It was like part of the holiday special with Thundercracker making the Christmas one about him fighting Santa Claus.
Wasn't that Burcham? I didn't know who he was back when I read that.
Yeah, he did the art for that one, and it was incredible. Like that's literally to this day like one of my favorite pieces of artwork. But yeah, I got to meet him at New York Comic Con. Such a cool dude. Easily one of my favorite artists alongside Nick Roche and Jack Lawrence for sure.
I think my favorite thing Josh has colored is like the Optimus Prime like 25 issue run. Just the colors on that.
Oh yeah, the Optimus Prime comics were just so colorful. Like
yeah, I know.
He brings so much life to
It's so distinct. Like you look at those colors, you know it's Josh Burcham.
Yeah, exactly.
I might prefer the coloring on Beast Wars though, because everything's like so sunny and
the Beast Wars
is like his magnum opus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Beast Wars comics. As someone who's like this is probably gonna sound sacrilegious, but to this day, my only experience with animated was I would watch it when it was live back on Cartoon Network, but that was like 2007 to 2008. I was 9 to 10 years old at the time, and Cartoon Network just screwed it over with constantly airing the new episodes like 6 in the morning. So by that time, I was always going off to school, so I never really got the chance to really like delve into the story of animated. So pretty much everything I know is from like your retrospective video on it, people just talking about it in the fandom, and I do own the whole series on DVD. I got it for Christmas a few years ago. I actually made a review of the first 3 pilot episodes about, I want to say, I did it for the 10-year anniversary of anime back in 2017, and I've been meaning to get back to it and to review the rest of animated as someone who's just never, like, while I do know like the majority of the story context, I haven't actually just watched every single episode, and if I do, I would have forgotten it since it's been almost 15 years since the last time I've seen it. But I'm definitely excited to jump back into it, and it's really cool to see. So moving on from that, there's been you said that you love Josh Burcham's art and so that, but we've had a lot of new Transformer stuff coming out lately. One of especially that is very dear to my heart, just because I've had such a fun time reviewing the series on YouTube over the past few months, was Transformers Earthspark. So the second batch of episodes, it's almost been now 2 months since that batch came out, and we're still waiting for the last batch. What are your thoughts on it so far, and how do you feel about, I don't know if because minor spoilers for Earthspark, Swindle and Brawl to some extent both play some pretty important roles in Earthspark. When you were doing Combaticons, I know it might have been a bit late, especially in Brawl's case, because I think that would have he didn't get introduced until maybe like a few days before you premiered from Combaticons, but might even be going forward into Wrath of the Junkions. Do you have any thoughts on just Earthspark in general? What do you think about it? And what if you could implement anything from maybe the Earthspark versions of Swindle and Brawl into your own designs for the Combaticons? Would you?
I feel good with the current designs. I guess, hold on, let me go back. I didn't answer like what my favorite non-TFA story is, and that's
right, yes.
That's like everyone's.
Oh, absolutely. The comics were great. I don't know, were you able to get did you see it back in I think like August? James Roberts did the email that he was putting up the More Meets the Eye like notebooks that had like the scripts of all of them.
Yeah, I have those. I actually haven't read them yet.
Oh yeah, no, see, I've actually got them right here. So for anyone who doesn't know, so basically back in August to celebrate the 10th anniversary of More Meets the Eye, James Roberts is putting together these like behind the scenes notebooks about the like in the making of the whole franchise. So like there's some really cool stuff in here that he's planning to make 2 more volumes that are coming out later this year, as well as rerun. He's doing reprints of the first 2 volumes in case you missed them. So if you want to just keep an eye out on Twitter if you want to get those. And then I think he's mentioned back in next year, he's going to put together like some big More Meets the Eye omnibus that's going to basically sort of be his capstone of the whole franchise.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, absolutely. I've only skimmed through a bit of volume 1 right now, and it's really crazy to see like all the ideas he had. Like, I guess like sort of minor spoilers from CI, no actual spoilers, but like just a scrapped concept. Like just for one, apparently he originally planned for Rung to be like a sentient hive mind of scraplets that was gonna be able to like combine and like decombine at some point. And I just think that's just like such a crazy twist that could have been taken with him.
I love More Than Meets the
Eye. Oh, absolutely. It's such
I need to read those books. So to go back to the Earthspark question, I love it. I think it's really good so
Same.
far. The first 2 batches of episodes, I think, honestly might give anime the competition because it's just meaningful stories that are about things. A lot of it's very on the nose and pointed, but I mean, it's a children's animated show. It has morals and messages. I think it doesn't bother me. I really like it.
It really doesn't like either. Like I think the stories are honestly of Earthspark. I really like. Before this, Prime was probably my favorite Transformers show. But man, I just love just the heart behind Earthspark. You can really just tell that the creators, both the animation team and the writing team, have put just such passion into Earthspark, and how it really feels like it's like a story that anyone can get behind. If you're just a first-time Transformers fan or a long-time one, it's got something for everyone. And I just love how, like, while you said, yes, that it's a lot of the connections to, like, real-world issues are very on the nose, I feel like we kind of need that in a kid's show in today's world. Ones that, like, where you have character, basically it has their own interpretations of stuff like racism and gender identity, just the way that Earthspark seemed to tackle it with such grace, I would argue, especially in, like, that's why I find one of my favorite episodes of it too is well, one of my favorite characters, of course, obviously is Nightshade, who I think honestly the whole journey that they go on throughout the second batch, especially in the last batch where they learn like what it means to be non-binary, is absolutely like such an empowering message to children who may believe they are non-binary. But one of my favorite episode ones was, I believe it was episode 12, the one where Jawbreaker and Hashtag are putting together like a little film to try and help him find his alt mode, and he has the conversation with Alita 1 on top of all the scrap. He's wondering like what he's gonna do his alt mode. And what really struck me was what he said in that, where he basically asks Alita, what if I'm broken? Because when I look at cars, I don't feel anything. To me, that really feels like something that you could, if you just switch a few words around, that could almost come across as like someone that just is neurodivergent almost, or maybe even like just is LGBT to some degree, that it's so easy to just project those things onto what Jawbreaker is and make him neurodivergent coded and stuff. And I think that just is such an empowering message to people.
What I appreciate about it is using the Transformer experience as a metaphor for the human experience. I think it's just like they're doing it so well, and it's just so interesting to see like the parallels they draw. I think a lot of another thing about like Jawbreaker can't decide on what alt mode he wants, or like none of these feel right to him.
Exactly.
It's like gender. It's like, you know, where do you fall on the spectrum? This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. I'm somewhere in between. I'm something else. You know, we see eventually he'll take a Dinobot.
Yeah, that I'm super excited for how that's gonna look like. In case anyone hasn't already seen the leaks for what his Dinobot mode's gonna look like, it looks awesome. But I just think that's so cool too, and especially how like and everyone like in the show is like so supportive of these characters as well. Like with Alita, like when she sees how much Jawbreaker's struggling, she just tells them calmly, maybe you weren't meant to be a vehicle, and that's totally okay. Same with when Nightshade comes out as non-binary to everyone, how their siblings just so readily and are okay with that thing. They're totally okay with it. Everyone just acknowledges it and is totally okay with it, referring to them as such throughout the show.
Everyone in every character is very supportive, and it makes it like a comfort show.
Exactly. It's such a feel-good show, and I feel like, especially in today's climate, we need something like that.
Yeah. To finally answer the question about Swindle and Brawl from like 20 minutes ago, I think their designs in Earthspark did factor into when we designed them for Combaticons because they didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
I feel like the Brawl thing, it was like right around the time Combaticons released. I think you're right. I think it was a few days after.
Yeah, because the episodes came out on March 3rd, and I think when did Combaticons come out? Like March 6th?
It was March 15th. I guess there's a longer gap there than I thought.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking back at it. Because I published my first review, the second batch, the day they did the second batch. Yeah, so it was March 3rd.
But yeah, animation had wrapped by the time that batch of episodes came out, and Catherine was just finalizing all the audio. So, but if I were to, I don't know if I would necessarily incorporate any elements of their designs going forward. I'm good with the designs we have. Although I will say that Swindle has been redesigned. There's an artist called Prime Kelly on Twitter who he did like his own kind of take on Swindle, and it's his art style, his proportions and everything, but just like the core kind of, I guess, geography and like lines. I was like, that's so much better than what we did. So I actually had our Swindle, with his permission, like redesigned it to resemble Prime Kelly's a lot.
Oh, that's really cool.
Wrath of the Junkions. If that gets like the funding to go animated, Swindle will have like a different design, the same proportion and everything as he had in the pilot, but just different.
That's really cool. I'm super excited to see that. And I guess the only other thing I could say then about just Earthspark is then, what about in terms of their actual like character, like personality? I know with Brawl, he's pretty much non-existent in terms of character with how little we got to see him. But in terms of Swindle, is there anything that maybe you would love to see take that? Maybe like have him have like a brother relationship with Hardtop in your own version?
I don't necessarily think so. I don't think Earthspark did anything like that particularly flashy and new with Swindle. I think he's just a pretty stock character, and so our version of Combaticons has a lot of those elements already. I think I really like, there's this moment in, I guess, his showcase episode. I don't remember which one.
That was episode 4, House Rules, the one with Thrash and Mo going through
Yeah. He like makes up this lie and he's crying about like,
oh, that was great,
orphans or something.
Yeah,
I forget what it was. It was so funny, and like just telling the most ridiculous lie and completely sobbing. That's like a direction that the Combaticons version of the character kind of already had, but like I've definitely run with that because that was very funny, that moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really hoping we get to see more of him in the final batch, or at the very least come season 2, which I think is going to be either later this year or early 2024.
Mm-hmm.
All right, going on to that, so now granted, I'm sure this is probably gonna be an easy one, but if you could tell a story in any other Transformers continuity, whether it be continuing that story or telling a side story in that continuity, which Transformers continuity would you want to tell a story in?
Obviously animated.
Yeah.
I just love the characters in the world. I feel like if it's like official Transformers animated media, it needs Marty Eisenberg involved. So I don't know if I realistically would take an opportunity to write real animated media, just because other people besides like Marty and the team have written stuff like in the almanacs and such, and I don't think it really turned out that well. So like, if I were actually given the opportunity, hey, write this animated comic, I'd be like, no, give it to Marty. But like in terms of just things for fun, I've done so much with animated already, just unofficially on YouTube. I don't know if I like, I tried to capture Marty Eisenberg's voice as best I could, and I haven't rewatched any of those storyboards like since high school. And given that I was 16, I'm sure I did not fully succeed in capturing, the writing style, but like I did my best. I tried my best. I think I could do it better now. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's my answer to that question.
Well, I mean, I found your channel, God. It was definitely before the blow up of your second channel with the Lab Rats video. I remember distinctly like looking up your Transformers, and I definitely saw a few of your Transformers Animated Season 4 storyboards back in, God, I want to say 2019, 2020-ish. And so I saw them, and I was just blown away. I'm thinking, this guy's in high school, and he was able to do this? That's incredible. I mean, when I was in high school, I was just making just stock footage, like slideshows for my YouTube channel. So as much as maybe you may not be happy with them compared to like your stuff you're doing now, I still think the fact that you're able to get that level of quality at that early in your career is impressive in its own right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I look back at them, they're so trash and so poorly executed that I'm still I was a child. Like
yeah, exactly.
I'm not really embarrassed by it. Like I've left them up on the internet because like I don't know, I worked hard on them. I don't know.
It's a nice little time capsule, like to see how far you've come since then.
Yeah, I that's kind of part of it too. It's just compare and contrast where I am now versus where I was then.
All right. Now moving on, we're just going to move into a few questions now about like what it was like to actually create Combaticons and just the production process behind it. So we're going to start off with basically what obviously you're a big animated fan, you were very inspired by animated in terms of your like stuff. Is there any like art styles outside of animated or like Derek J. White and stuff that were a big inspiration for you in terms of like just art, story, anything that other inspirations in terms of your writing and animation philosophies?
In terms of like the art style, there was an artist called Fabulous Katska. She just goes by like Katska now. She basically just drew them in her personal style, which in her words is very animated Derek J. Wyatt influenced. I think it's a lot looser. It's not as strict of a style. I needed something kind of more accessible for me. So her style, I don't know if she had any other influences beyond like Derek, etc. But there's definitely an animated influence in her style. It's just maybe a little bit simpler. In terms of writing, when I was first kind of conceiving Combaticons, I took the Transformers animated pitch Bible, like the series Bible, and Marty Eisenberg kind of wrote up to pitch it to Cartoon Network and Hasbro, or I think they were already making it, but he just made it as a series Bible for writers who signed on. And I basically just followed that exact template. Marty would have a section like, what makes it different? Then I would have that same section. So essentially Marty was like asking questions that justified animated's existence.
Oh, okay.
This was the value of it, etc. And so I did that same thing in high school, and I think the biggest influence or the biggest asset of that was all the character dynamics. Marty crafted this perfect like symphony of the 5 main characters who all bounced off each other so perfectly. There's everyone has like a source of conflict with each other, and also like they complement each other in all these ways, and Marty outlined all of that. And so I tried to replicate that with the 5 Combaticons. It's like any 2 of them could be put in a situation they could carry that like adventure together. So that was kind of important to me, and I would say that was the biggest influence of animated in terms of like tangibly trying to replicate it was Marty Eisenberg's kind of approach to character dynamics. In terms of just like the jokes and the humor, I wasn't really trying to replicate anything. I just kind of wrote like my own style in the same way that Kathy did hers, and obviously we were both influenced by animated. So a lot of people are saying like, oh, this feels like animated. A lot of like the quips and the style of it I wasn't like trying to capture the energy of animated. I just kind of did that subconsciously because that's really influential to me.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of like not just you and me, but also anyone who really is in entertainment, they sort of like to they kind of put their inspirations into their own artwork, that whether we do it consciously or not, that we're our own projects are gonna feel like the ones that inspired us growing up. Me personally, I definitely felt the animated influence with it, but also oddly enough, it felt very G1 and RID15-esque too in terms of the comedy. More so G1 with the more slapstick and just how out there it all got, which I really thought was very nice to watch.
Yeah, for me, it was like pulling it back to Generation 1 authentically was something that I really wanted to do. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they think of G1, they just think of the 86 movie, when all the characters, you know, all got blown up in the beginning, in the opening 20 minutes. And everyone thinks of G1. I feel like most Transformers media that is like back to G1 is like, you know, the War for Cybertron trilogy kind of stuff. They just bring the designs back to G1, but don't really recapture his energy in
exactly.
So yeah, I just wanted to get the zaniness, the outlandishness, and I'm blanking on the word, just the sense of like, nothing really matters. That's
yeah, exactly. It felt very G1 animated and even Cyberverse-esque, which also again, for anyone who doesn't know, congrats to you again also, by the way, for technically being immortalized in Cyberverse along with many other YouTubers in the finale episode. How cool was that to have your name featured in a little data pad on a blink and you miss it shot in the last episode of Cyberverse?
Oh my god, that's still like the coolest thing ever. That's still my pinned tweet.
Yeah, they don't know I'm immortalized in a Transformers cartoon.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about it. I forget who made the tweet, but it was just like they translated the Cybertronian text, the like ancient Autobot font that Jim Sorensen made in the 90s. And it's just like a list of 7 kind of Transformers content creators like me, Ultra Primal, Thu, and Cam, others, and Rodimus Primal, and it was like, thanks for the reviews, we love you guys! ! And it's just cool. It really made me so happy.
Just minor thing for Combaticons, I know apparently in response to that, you actually put an Easter egg like that of your own in Combaticons, where you have, I think it's for a split second on one of like the ship's monitors, you have in a text the makers of Cyberverse saying like, oh, thank you for putting us in the show or something like that.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I did the same format. It was like Randolph, Dan, Gavin, Masai, etc. And Ehud, who was one of the animation directors for that episode. I was like, thanks for the cameos. We love you guys. So it was the same formatting. And then I showed that to Randolph. I just talked to Randolph for a while yesterday about.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And yeah, no, I feel I thought that was like. When that episode of Cyberverse came out, we were already working on Combaticons, and like that day, I decided I was like, I'm gonna put the same message in my pilot, and so like that was like the day that happened. I was like, that's gonna go.
That's really sweet. That's honestly kudos to you for putting such like a heartfelt Easter egg in the show. I'm sure they all definitely appreciated that.
Yeah, Randolph, I think he that made him happy, and he said he sent it to the other writers.
That's great. So, how was what was it like, because as far as I know, in regards to your animated, like, storyboard projects, you did that pretty much all by yourself, aside from, as you said, you got a few friends in your high school to voice some of the characters, right?
Yeah.
So, with Combaticons, obviously, where you're working with several storyboard artists, several animators, composers, other voice actors, I can imagine, if as far as I know, this was your first time tackling such a big project like that, right?
Yeah.
So, how, daunting of a task was that to do? Like, was it like stressful at all to do this? You've been putting this together for I think at least in terms of, because I remember when you posted the audition for the Combaticons, that was back in, I believe, summer 2021 or
something like the call for storyboard artists and stuff was like August 2021, and then probably March 2022 was the casting.
Yeah, that was the one I remember, because I remember applying for the roles of Blastoff, Onslaught, and Brawl for that. Which yeah, I had such a fun time auditioning for them. I especially loved the most when I was trying to do the voice of Onslaught that you were looking. You said you're looking for like something very Zeb-esque, and I just thought immediately, because again, I'm not like the biggest like voice actor. I just thought, okay, it'd be fun to try. All my friends tell me I do like a perfect Scottish accent, because back when you know the Pixar movie Brave, right?
Yeah.
So the commercial that constantly saying like, if you had the chance to change your fate, would you? Like, I would just constantly mount like that verbatim in the Scottish accent, where I go, if you had the chance to change your fate, would ya? And like literally, all my friends would always go like, oh man, that's like hilarious. They would die laughing something like, okay, if I can just match that Scottish accent to the best of it, maybe that'll be like an entertaining onslaught voice to do. But anyway, so yes, talk about talk about like what are some of the challenges you had like when managing such like a big crew for this project.
Yeah. So that was my first time attempting anything like that. Because, like you said, everything for the animated season 4 stuff was people I knew in real life. And I didn't even start interacting with people online until the pandemic. Until Alex Cabrera, or Gloria720p, basically just found my Instagram, DM me. He was like, can I design characters? And I was like, okay. And now we're best friends.
Oh,
by the time Combaticons rolled around, I felt comfortable enough in the online space. I think I had like 6,000 subscribers at that time on the channel. I don't remember, but I was pretty small comparatively when I started Combaticons. And yeah, so I was like, you know, I think we're gonna get a lot better results if I get people from the internet to voice act these characters. So yeah, I did that casting call. I never really found it overwhelming at all. I don't know why. It was like my first time doing anything like that. I felt like I had it under control, whereas like now when I'm doing considerably less, I feel overwhelmed, but I never did at the time when we were doing Combaticons. So yeah, there's like a little Discord server that a lot of the board artists were in to begin with. And it was basically just me like talking to them like one by one. Like I kind of, most of the people like didn't collaborate with each other. Like none of the board artists, they were all like, you know, complimenting each other's work, like, oh, good job. But there was no like discussion between them about how to do it. I was just me one-on-one with each artist. And yeah, I feel like there's far more qualified kind of storyboard directors than me. But I didn't know that. I was just like, I don't know how this works.
So I was going to say, do you think the reason why you think maybe there wasn't a lot of problems was because, to my knowledge, I think you animated all the Combaticons pilot yourself, right?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I did about 3/5 of it.
Oh, okay.
There's a guy named Thomas Patel. From Ireland. He did 1/5. And so that was our original plan. It was like me and Thomas would kind of carry it. Near the end, I was like, I'm ready to be over this. So I had done like a storyboard call on my big channel for a different fan project soon. And a couple of animators applied. And I was like, you know, this is clearly not what this call was for, but these are good animators who could absolutely handle Combaticons. So there was 3 really good ones who applied, and the 2 that I ultimately, or there was only 2 that were available. The other one had school. So it was Jack Bralia and Keyan Marissi, a different Keyan, like an Irish spelling, Cian. Oh, and Morning Shorts on Twitter. Morning Short, Ibuka. Oh gosh, I forget the last name. He animated as well. So basically, those 3 kind of like filled in the remaining 1/5 together. And Jack and Keyan came on like very late, and just like with a month or 2 until release, and then they just like knocked out all these shots, these complicated ones that I couldn't handle. So that was the animation team. It wound up being 5 of us.
I only asked it because I remember seeing on your like announcement page for Wrath of Junkions, you're planning to just be sort of a like director for that, right? You're not going to be doing any animating for it.
Yeah, that's my plan, because I want to work on. Years ago, I announced and started a 5th Transformers animated season 4 thing. It was the episode Truck Not Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to kind of forget about that and move on, but it's Alex who's been the biggest like champion and cheerleader for it, as well as a guy named Cody who did a lot of like backgrounds. They're like, come on, finish it. So I'm like, okay, fine. So that my plan currently is to finish that up in the back half of the year. And so I want to be animating Truck Not Monkey while that way I can hand Wrath of the Junkions off to the animation team who did Combaticons with me.
So like you got them working on Combaticons while you're working on other like like personal projects and all that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, again, just I think I'm a big fan of like your animation style of that. One of my favorites, actually, you posted on your Twitter a few weeks ago, was when you were decided you were going to animate one of them. I believe her name is Lilified on Twitter, a little storyboard she did of her own take on Megatron and Starscream doing a little like spar, and I absolutely loved how you were doing the animation. I know like it's still like a rough thing, it's probably just like a small thing that's not really like a huge thing, but still though, I think it's great to see, like, as such a big fan of her storyboards, I think you translated her style to like a proper animation really well.
Yeah, that's Lillian Fiedler. I may be mispronouncing that. I need to finish that. Oh, I just did that for practice and I kind of burnt out on it. But then I got Cyberverse Windblade's voice actor to play.
No way! You got Jessica Giovanni to do it?
Yes, I did.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
And then I burnt out like immediately after she sent her line. So it's like I need to.
Wow.
I might honestly just have the Combaticons animation team just like finish it because I'm burnt out.
Oh,
but I feel
wow.
like I don't know if she's waiting, but I feel like I was like, I'm gonna animate your scene. Then I just disappeared for 3 weeks.
Oh man,
I need to finish that soon.
Oh man, like absolutely no pressure on you to finish it, but man, I would love to see that finished because
it'll get finished. Just give me a little bit.
Yeah, of course, take all the time you need.
It's too cool to have Jessica in it to just not finish.
Exactly. I'm just like, the second you said her name, I got giddy because I absolutely loved her performance as Windblade in Cyberverse too. So I'm super excited for that. On to the next question. So after like this whole process with working on and directing Combaticons, what did you take away and learn from this experience? Were there any lessons that you've learned that going forward you'll apply to future projects?
Yeah, I think I just have a better idea of what kind of workflow a project like this has. I didn't make any serious blunders, really. Well, I guess there was one thing, is like there was like a scam bot animator on Twitter who applied to be an animator in like last August, and she sent it as an email, and so I didn't realize the Twitter account associated with it. And I brought her on, paid her up front, then eventually we realized like the whole portfolio theirs, etc. Like Thomas kind of, after I got scammed, and then Thomas basically had to like sit me down digitally and be like, Keyan, you don't pay animators up front. You need to have a process before you just fully hire them. So Thomas is like a professional animator who works at studios in Ireland. So Thomas taught me how to be smart about that. And when I brought on Keyan and Jack, then I had like a proper vetting process where I gave them a test shot, etc. And that was and then they did great. So that was wonderful. So that was probably the biggest blunder I made, which at the end of the day only inconveniences me. It doesn't like disrupt the project.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's just no one likes getting scammed. I totally get that.
Yeah. Me and Catherine was like the post-processing lead. Her and her business partner Sturls did all of the audio like processing on Combaticons, and she taught me how to have like a lot better of a workflow in terms of handing sounds back and forth, because I had no clue. I'd never worked with anyone sound-wise before, but it just felt like the whole 22-minute episode, I think this is worth the investment. I think it absolutely was, because I loved how they made it sound. I would not have been able to do that on my own. So yeah, it's a lot of things are just like learning how to run it smoothly. I didn't really have any like missteps, but I know I could run it smoother in the future than I did with the pilot, because I just, assess what works and what doesn't.
2020 hindsight,
Yeah.
Now, I think this is pretty much our like last question for this section. So, if you could basically have gotten any voice actor, whether they worked on Transformers or not, involved on Combaticons to play any character, or you could just got them to make a new character entirely just for them, who would you have wanted to be in it and why? My like dream cast kind of for Swindle is an actor named Phil Lewis, who doesn't really do a ton of voice work. Yeah, Mr. Mosby, right? Mosby. Yes. Yeah, Mr. Mosby in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. He's like, in my head, Swindle is Phil Lewis. And we didn't, because I imagine him as a kind of like a kooky older guy,
and no one old really auditioned for Swindle, so we just went with like a traditional sounding younger guy, in Ethan, who played him, Ethan Wright. And but if I could have had like any, official actor pop in, I would have tried to go for Phil Lewis. I didn't even bother asking. I feel like a Transformers. Well, Transformers is like considered the lowest art in the industry. Also,
yeah.
the fan project of Transformers.
Yeah.
Why even try at that
point? when the general public's knowledge of Transformers probably starts and ends at the Bayverse movies, I could see that. But yeah, man. I totally got that feeling from Swindle, though, that even though it did sound probably younger than you intended, I do still feel like Swindle definitely felt like just kind of the washed up like Grunkle Stan almost like character.
That energy is what.
That's literally what it felt like. Like in terms of like if there was like sort of a broad age range for all Combaticons, I would say like Swindle would probably be like the third oldest of them all behind Brawl and Onslaught.
I feel like in terms of how the pilot came out, that's probably about right. But in my head, in my head, Swindle has always been the oldest because I've imagined Lewis, and obviously he became younger during the actual casting process.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Thank you for answering those questions, but now we're going to go ahead and jump into, if you're all right answering them, some more spoiler-based questions in regard to the Combaticons pilot. So, for anyone who hasn't watched his show yet, spoilers are ahead for this. We're going to go ahead and jump into it with the first question, which I'm sure probably a lot of other people have on their mind. Why Professor Princess for the villain?
I thought it was funny. That was like, I guess to go back to the beginning, I was a kid watching Transformers animated. I didn't like her, same as every basic little kid. He was like, ew, who's she? She's a girl or whatever. And what I came to appreciate as I got older is like every character in the show has like a backstory and a history, and we see how they became the way they are. I think Angry Archer is like the only real exception. But besides her, and she just shows up and she's a toddler who shoots rainbows out of a wand that has a flying pet unicorn. And I just find that so funny now. It's like, why is she like this?
Yeah, it's like she's so out of place.
And you go back to like my Transformers channel, I was like her strongest soldier. I did like a whole month themed around her at one point. I guess her and Starscream. I gave them a character theme month. And I did like this old comic that Marty Eisenberg wrote, Marcelo Matera illustrated, where Professor Princess like makes Starscream a drag queen and just
that's hilarious.
So I animated that comic, and I've come to appreciate her very much so as an adult. And so I had this idea a couple years ago. It was like, or I guess a few years ago maybe at this point. Professor Princess as like a terrifying cosmic space queen. And I wasn't even thinking of Combaticons at that point, although I did have the idea for the show. Then eventually I was like, oh, what if there was an episode with Professor Princess? And so what's funny is like, I haven't really talked about this that much, but I have like a whole springboard of episode ideas, most of which are just in my head. But one idea I had is like, Vortex is competing with her arch rival Dragstrip to see who can, they're like the two most feared assassins in the galaxy. They both want to be the most feared assassin in the galaxy. So they're like, whoever kills the god Professor Princess first will earn the title of the most feared assassin. So the idea for that episode has always been they go off and Swindle goes with Vortex on this mission to defeat the Space Queen, Professor Princess. And that would probably like introduce multiverse kind of things. Because I would love to do actual multiverse exploration in the Combaticon series, maybe just once per season or something. So that was that was an idea that eventually formed in my head. And when it came time to like tell a story with the Combaticons, she was the one that just stood out.
Absolutely.
Time to do a Professor Princess story. And the pilot is like a whole bunch of episode concepts in my head that have all been like mushed together, and I'll take this element, take this part, slap it together into just like a cohesive story. So that, and then I would say that mostly draws from like the Vortex trying to defeat Professor Princess episode idea.
Yeah, I definitely think, that she was an absolutely amazing villain. I love how Bro, her and especially all the different versions of her too. You have like the G1 Professor Princess, the Prime version, the animated version. And I love how it just sort of retroactively makes like animated Professor Princess seem so much more important that if you can in the grand scale of the Transformers multiverse.
Oh, I know. She's in like 2 episodes. She's like the least important character. But I've always liked her. So yeah, for like a year and a half, I just had to keep Prime Professor Princess a secret in G1.
Yeah, I was totally like shook by that. That was great. Reminds me a lot. I'm not sure. Have you ever heard about this canceled Transformers comic that was apparently revealed like early last year called Transformers Collision Course?
Yeah, I vaguely heard about that. There isn't really that much information about it outside of like a cover, and they were like, we were gonna do kind of Crisis on Infinite Earths, but Transformers.
Yeah, that's where I get that's where like watching having watched like the last like 5 to 7 minutes of your Combaticons shorts, where you think, what if like this is like just a sneak peek at what like the broad general scale of what Collision Course was going to be. I'm a sucker for multiversal stories, characters interacting with their alternate selves and all that. God, I absolutely loved when you have all the Combaticons fighting the alternate versions of like and then you have animated Swindle throw the pie in Yorka Swindle's face. It was great.
I don't think Collision Course had even been like announced when I started Combaticons, or maybe it was, but I'd forgotten about it. I didn't do anything in response to like Collision Course, but obviously the idea of a Transformers multiverse, or the idea of multiverse, that's not original.
Yeah, because it says the last 3 years of the MCU.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think where my kind of idea inspiration started with was I had the idea from at the very beginning of Combaticons to eventually weave the multiverse into it, because there's a huge Transformers multiverse and there's so much potential, and it's going to bring back animated. So that was always my idea for how Combaticons would eventually go. And then when Cyberverse season 3 ended, but before there was like a green light for the 2-part special, Maycat did like a Reddit AMA. She was like, yeah, we were considering doing the multiverse in 4th season of Cyberverse. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I don't think Cyberverse had the budget to do any of that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Would not have been able to do the new animation styles of the respective shows. There's no way they would have gotten like David, Optimus, etc. So it would have been. I would have appreciated the effort behind it. I just don't think it would have been that good if Cyberverse ultimately did it. But I was like, I want to do it. I want to like maintain the correct animation style, all these different continuities, and bring them in, and it'll just be like this little portal sequence and a little other moments in the episode. Just I think all of it in total is like under a minute. Just like keep it manageable. So that was my kind of idea to come into Combaticons, because it's not just like, it is mostly fan service. Like that was it goes into the idea of like Vortex feeling incredibly insecure. And,
absolutely. Yeah, I love that scene like after they fight like all the alternate versions of themselves, and they're like just sitting in the endless void, and Vortex is just feeling that like there's so many other versions of herself that are arguably like better and like more capable warriors and assassins than her. So she feels like she's the bottom of the barrel in terms of Vortexes. And I'm a sucker for that in like terms of multiverse stories, where a character sees all the other different incarnations of themselves and just feels like, man, I'm literally like the worst timeline version of myself. And how do you like come back from that? How can you turn around like, hey, like you have your own strengths, even though if all these other versions of you can do such cool things. I think that's a really empowering message to give to your audience.
I was happy with how that came out, because originally it was just going to be 11 minutes. And then it was really that scene of Vortex and Onslaught and like weaving in a character arc that is the reason that it expanded to 22. It was like, because that original like emotional scene in the Purple Void, that wasn't in the 11-minute version. That was like what basically made me decide to expand it, because I just like it, like Earthspark's pretty on the nose, but I was really happy with
it was like honestly like one of my favorite parts of the episode. I actually love that you managed to like tell, well, it's like mostly like just like a comedical like slice of life, like just, oh, here's just the Combaticons going to wacky adventure episode. You managed to tell this really nice and heartfelt story in the middle of it, and I really liked that. I thought that was really good job for that.
You don't have to be the best to matter, and I feel like that kind of, there was kind of a lot of things to that. Is first this Combaticons pilot, is it the best Transformers media? No, it's just goofy fan YouTube, but you know what? People like it. It matters. And I feel like Transformers as a whole, as a franchise, is it the best media ever produced? Certainly not, but it matters so much to its fans. So I feel part of that was kind of like commentary on the franchise as a whole. Transformers is not the best, but it matters so much to
exactly
a lot of other people.
It's not the gold medal, but it in our hearts has a gold medal.
Yeah, I was happy with how that message came out. And even recently, there was a day, like maybe a month ago, where I was just like struggling with imposter syndrome a lot. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just not proud of things I make. And then it was Cody, who voiced Astro Train and did a lot of artwork, who I mentioned earlier. He replied to me in that little Discord, "You don't have to be the best to matter." I was like, oh my God.
That's so sweet.
I forgot my own message.
Yeah. It's so easy to do that. Someone too who like loves to make videos that promotes just like positivity and all that. Like it really makes you feel like, oh, am I really like doing a good job here? Do people really care about what I'm doing? Or am I really making a difference in someone's life here, that I'm making sure that they can feel like they're welcome, or that makes someone's life better? And it can definitely like, well, I feel that I maybe gotten better at over the years of keeping that imposter syndrome down. It still bubbles up every now and then, but at the same point, though, like I have like seen like so many like God, that reminds me like once when I like a few weeks ago when I put out an Earthspark review, someone commented my video like, oh my God, like I'm a fellow non-binary Transformers fan. To see you talk so passionately and defend Nightshade's character arc and everything they go through, it really means a lot to me. So thank you so much for speaking about them in such a positive light. That really made my day and really helped reaffirm me that, yeah, I'm actually making a difference here. If I made this person's life feel a lot better knowing that they're supported in their life choices, I can definitely do this then.
Yeah, I get a lot every once in a while. I'll get a comment like that. It's just like, feels so validating.
Exactly.
The response to Combaticons was just so validating. After working on that for like a year and a half to wait, just there weren't even like mean comments. There weren't like any negative comments that I saw. It was such a good feeling, honestly.
Exactly. It makes you feel like I bet you sure felt in that moment, it's like, this was worth it. Like everything, to it, like all the, well, I'm pretty sure I'm exaggerating with all the blood, sweat, and tears, but all the work it necessarily was worth it.
Yeah. No, not necessarily blood and tears, but just definitely sweat.
Yeah.
It's like by the end of that process, it's so long. It's like the jokes aren't funny to you anymore. It's just kind of like, it's all kind of like you've heard it all and seen it 100 times. So it's just like, let's just get this done. So yeah, honestly, for the last 2 months, I think my plan was like, starting January 1st, I just do Combaticons until it's done, and hopefully we'll finish in early March, was basically my plan. And actually, I wouldn't have got that done if Keyan and Jack hadn't signed on. I thought I would have, but they were kind of necessary to reach that deadline. But for the last 2 months, it was just like, let's just get it done. And every once in a while, I'd have a moment where I'm like, I did this, I made this. But most of that was just like, Professor Princess says, actually for the 900th time in disintegrates, like, haha, so funny. So, you forget the reasons that it's funny, that it made you laugh in the first place after seeing it so many times. Yeah. So it was really like reinvigorating and validating to see the response it got. I was really happy with that.
Definitely. All your praise is definitely well deserved. So next question in regards to spoilers on the Combaticons. In regards to that whole final scene as well, when the Combaticons actually transform and combine into Bruticus. So do you have a story as to how Onslaught got his hands on the Enigma of Combination?
Yeah. So there's a lot of like kind of lamp shading show ideas throughout this pilot. For example, Onslaught yells, "I'm former Decepticon Justice Division" at one point when he's fighting with Vortex. And
that I do remember.
Ooh, whoa, that's cool. So for example, that goes into like a whole Tarn episode idea that I've had rattling around my head. Or Onslaught is former DJD. He had the Keyan moniker and he was working with Tarn, and eventually he kind of left. He was like, more into like killing Autobots, but back to you guys, bye-bye. And
Yeah.
in my head, Tarn's like, all right, cool. And then, the real Keyan came in and took that name. But then, Vortex is on Tarn's list.
Oh.
And basically has to decide between, like, his old boss and his new friend Vortex. And you'd probably have to, like, protect her. And they're stranded on this blue planet that you kind of see in the credits.
Yeah.
Shot. So, for example, there's a whole Tarn episode that exists in my head. I've never really written it down. And that line was to lampshade that. So, for example, to go back to the Enigma of Combination question, I have this vague idea. Everything in my head for Combaticons is very vague. It's all malleable. I'm open to changing literally anything. I mean, ideally, down the road, I would, if Hasbro were to pick it up, if I can, get my foot in the industry, get to the point where I know people, or I know how to pitch it, or I know way in the door to pitch it. You'd have to be open to changing literally anything, because Hasbro might be like, in the middle of this arc, let's introduce 27 toys with armor. And I'd have to be like, okay, Hasbro, sounds good. We can put them in if it were a real show. So, but good to go back to the Enigma of Combination for the second time.
Yeah.
I have this idea where there's an episode on Monicus and the three train guys who form Rail Racer. Let me think. Rapid, Run, Rail Spike, Express. Those three from RID 2001. My idea is that they're like frauds, and I've always imagined them voiced by Mike, J, and Rich from Red Letter Media. And so, like, Ron thinks of them as like the heroes who heroically sent all the relics, Iacon relics, through the space bridge at the beginning of the war to protect them from the Decepticons, kind of like Transformers Prime-esque. But then it turns out they all just, so then, like, after the war ends, they're like, we're gonna go search the galaxy for these relics. But then what it actually turns out, they all just like sent all the relics to their apartment, just, like, playing with them, and they like, collect them like old cars.
Oh, that's great.
This is the Star Saber. So I imagine, I don't know, like Blast Off or someone eventually like comes, he's onto them, and he's like scouting out, and like he sees all their weapons, like, whoa, the light Star Saber, whoa, the dark Star Saber, whoa, regular Star Saber. And he's just like, oh, yeah, he's just like stuck on a shelf. So then they'd have the Enigma of Combination as this ancient relic, and they're like playing around with it, and they combine. And then, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, Onslaught would get it, or maybe Motor Master would get it, or something. So yeah, that's like a loose idea I have that would, be on the asteroid colony Monicus, and I think Brawl would be doing like Gladiator.
Gotcha. So in that case, so in your mind, then when they turn to Bruticus in the pilot, that's not the first time they've combined into Bruticus, then.
Okay, so I don't think the pilot is like canon to anything.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just like a whole bunch of episode ideas I've kind of loosely had, rolled them into a cohesive story, and put it out. If I were to do like an actual Combaticon show, the pilot wouldn't be canon.
Okay, that makes more sense. Then.
So yeah, I imagine, like, in my head, if we could get away with it, I would like put off them combining to Bruticus until like a season 1 finale.
Yeah, that definitely seems
where they finally all get the Enigma of Combination. I feel like maybe Motor Master.
Yeah, I feel like a real I know RID 15 isn't necessarily exactly like the best show in the minds of the major Transformers fandom, even though it holds a special place in my heart, because that's actually, believe it or not, what got me into the fandom after having been off Transformers for years. I remember seeing an ad for RD15 on Cartoon Network, and I'm like, I'll check this out. Watch the first episode. That was cool. It's a prequel to the show called Prime. Yeah, I'll watch that on Netflix. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make this my life now. But yeah, so that's why I got in my mind that it felt that thought feels very like Ultra BS, like in the last season of RD15, when I think the B, Strong Arm, Sideswipe, and Drift and Grimlock, they used the Enigma turn into Ultra B. Picture in my mind reminds me a lot of that. So you would imagine that Bruticus is actually like a competent. It wouldn't just be like a gag like in the pilot where they just one shots him.
In the pilot, he was basically just there out of obligation. He was not relevant to the story.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where it's like, you can't not do Bruticus. And so I was like, he's just gonna get clobbered. Yeah. And you know what that originally was? That the original plan was like they combine the Bruticus dramatically, then they take one step and then they collapse.
That would have been hilarious.
Well, that exact same thing was in the Dinobot season 4 special of Cyberverse that my name was in. The Dinobots combine for the first time and take one step and fall apart. And I was watching that, I was like, I did that. So then, and then Road Russell as well. He's a YouTuber.
Yeah, I love Road Russell's content.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's wonderful.
He did the intro for your channel, right?
Oh yeah. He does like the
yeah, with a little
he made that on my big channel. Yeah, so he was also he was like, you should do a little bit more. So I had this idea for just a photorealistic human arm to come out of Professor Princess's forehead, grab Bruticus, slam it down. So I got the voice actor, who by the way is my high school theater teacher. She was like the one real life person that I carried over because I didn't want to announce Professor Princess, and it has the perfect screamy voice for it. So then I had her go on a blue screen with her arm, and I can send you this like behind the scenes footage. She was just like. We did it like 30 times, just swatting down.
Yeah, like I'll probably put like a picture of like a video clip of that, like the blue screen mixed in with like the final version of it.
Yeah. And then me and Nightbird's voice actress, we went through and we rotoscoped the arm out.
Oh, that's great.
In all the different frames. So, gosh, I lost my train of thought again. I keep doing that. Oh yeah, but to go back to Bruticus, so that's what that originally was. It was originally to take one step, fall apart, then Cyberverse ripped that off by accident. So I readjusted and I was like, okay, let's have a photorealistic arm come out of. Eventually, when I was animating it, I decided to do it just coming out of her mouth.
Oh.
Okay, so an arm comes out of her mouth.
I'm pretty sure actually RID15 did that too, because again, I'm not sure if you, but I remember distinctly the first time Bumblebee everyone turns into Ultra B, not that exact thing happens. Apparently, like, I think I remember correctly, they all sort of like fall onto the recombination. They accidentally transform to Ultra B, they stand up, but then they pass out and immediately decombine.
Yeah, something like that. I think I just watched a clip of that scene on YouTube. I didn't watch the 3rd season. But one thing I did, one of those things from RID that I actually liked is that they all maintain their distinct individualistic voices when they become a combiner. So like B is still talking, Strong Arm's still talking, Sideswipe's still talking. I don't know where they all were limb-wise.
Strong Arm and Sideswipe were the arms, Grimlock was the legs, and Drift was the sword. Yeah,
that's right. So I've always liked that. When I did like the Transformers animated season 4 Devastator episode, I had all the Constructicons maintain their voices, which to me makes a lot of sense for animated.
Oh, definitely.
Because that show had such a low voice budget that like they were reusing actors and characters all the time. I always thought that made sense. And I would still do it that way if I were to do animated.
Yeah, definitely. Like I like that idea, or sort of like, I guess you could have also gone maybe like another thing, the Dragon Ball Z like fusion route, where you just kind of have everyone say the same lines, but then just like echo it over each other.
That would get so annoying.
Yeah, that's true. But I love that too. Like I know you did a little bit of it in the thing, but I also really liked how I think it was you posted on Twitter like the scrap storyboard of that Bruticus line where you have him Onslaught confessing he has a crush on Blastoff confessing he has a crush on Onslaught, and I absolutely love how like their arms like move like sock puppets to try and replicate them talking. That was great.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think that may have come from Casey, the board artist.
Yeah, Ballpit B.
Ballpit B on Twitter.
Yeah, I love his
art. He boarded that scene. I don't remember if me or him had the sock puppet idea, but yeah, no. I wish we'd kept that Blastoff bit actually, because it was basically, it's a long contrived story to explain it, but basically, there was in the temp kind of storyboard with like the temp audio, I had like very chaotic, energetic music going all of it. So we're going around, all the Combaticons were saying something one at a time, and I had like the TFA I don't remember which one I had. It was like the chaotic Megatron transforms for the first time music. And so then when it goes to the score, Will McCarthy was doing that part for the score, and he had like specific character themes for all the characters too. That was unrelated, but he just did such a good job with that. So then he goes to Blastoff confessing his love, and he kind of does like a more romantic, like it trails out like, and then that leaves Onslaught saying, "This is our last chance to save the multiverse," apparently, pretty much over like silence. And this is my fault because he handed that off to me for approval, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I just didn't think about it. And then by the time, like, there's a lot of things, like I gave him like notes and revisions. The multiverse freefall scene, I think Poor guy, I made him do like too many revisions of one, and then I wound up doing like the third one. But um um yeah, so that was my fault. I didn't think about it, and it wasn't until like a couple weeks later, and I was putting in like the final everything, and I was like, shoot, the music just doesn't support this anymore because it's supposed to be like really chaotic, relentless. They're all saying something back and forth, super fast pacing, very snappy, and then like the music trails out. The moment was kind of lost, and I was like, Will, is there any way you could change this? And by that point, he was already working on other projects because he does like a lot of fan stuff in the fan circuit. So I was like, shoot, it was my fault. And so it just like, it was supposed to be really funny, and it wasn't really funny with the current music that was in place. So I wound up just like cutting that bit out before it was animated. There was another composer on the project, Rajan Manoharan, and I think I said that I mispronounced that, but I'm not gonna get it right. He's an Indian man, and he's a wonderful composer. He's so talented. He does like Cybertron Falls for the name brand company. And I wish, with the full benefit of hindsight, I wish I had just like gone to him and being like, hey, can you tweak this thing that Will did? Maybe have Will transfer the files to him. I just didn't have the idea. I just didn't think about it. So it's like, I didn't think about a solution to that problem. Or even Catherine, after I made that tweet about it, she was like, I could have like extended the music. There was big regret. That was like probably my biggest regret, is just cutting that in like a week or two from release when there was ways I could have gotten it.
Yeah, because I saw it, and as someone who's like a big fan, like I know you said the More Meets the Eye is your favorite comics. My personal favorite, I love More Meets the Eye. My favorite comic was actually Tiller One in the Windblade comics, and so when the Tiller One, I love the political drama of Tiller One and Windblade, especially just I love Starscream and Windblade's relationship so much in those comics. Starscream and Windblade are probably my favorite characters in the IW comics, apart from Rodimus probably. And when I got to the Tiller One arc, where like Starscream sort of like gaslights Blastoff by making this perfect reality of him, where he gets to be in a relationship with Onslaught, and then I see that and I'm like, oh man, that would have been such a nice little callback to that. And I know you said that you would that it is still that Blastoff's like crush for Onslaught is still sort of there in like subtext, but oh man, it would be awesome if, like, I don't know if either maybe you'll make a director's cut of Combaticon, the pilot, maybe a few months or years down the line, or at the very least maybe try to rework like his crush like for Onslaught in Junkion or some other future project. Yeah. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I should say the cut that we got was the director's cut. It's just the director changed my mind.
Oh, okay.
Or I regretted a decision I made. Yeah, no, I to me that's Blastoff has a one-sided crush on Onslaught and Combaticons, and that's inspired by Tiller One, which just like masterfully told story.
Yeah, no, America Scott did fantastic on that. I got to meet her at a few years ago at a New York Comic Con. Got her to sign my annual, like the final issue of it, along with a little like I got Nick Roche to do like a little cute like Starscream and Windblade commission artwork, so I got her to sign that, and she was absolutely loving it. So yeah, that I guess that's sort of like goes into my next question. What scene do you feel the most regret towards cutting out? Would it be that one, I assume?
Oh, it's that. That's the only one, really.
Okay.
It's just like, oh man, it's just like drat. I could have made it work. I could have saved it.
So besides that, then, what's your favorite Easter egg? I know we talked about the Cyberverse love letter one, but what other favorite Easter eggs did you have in Combaticons pilot that you want to talk about? Yeah, besides
that Cyberverse one, I don't know if I have a favorite, but there's a lot of ones that just make me laugh, like in Cybertronian text, because Cyberverse did this all the time, where I just have random text in the background, and when you translate it, it says, I like pickles, or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it always made me laugh. So I just did a bunch of that, kind of like as a tip of the hat to Cyberverse. And so one of them says, paper plane is so cool. YouTuber paper plane. Yeah. One of them says, Among Us, and all the
Among Us, I love that. I will say, like, one of the ones I remember you mentioned, I think it was, you mentioned it, because I remember so vividly when I was watching your Lab Rats video on YouTube, you mentioned how you were going to have in all the weapons that Spindle shows the Onslaught, the light staff rods. And yes. I remember seeing that rod in the file, like, I know that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think that might be my favorite. Actually, I forgot about that. Yeah. So in the show Lab Rats, there's this episode in season 3, like Space Gladiators, I think it was called, and it's like a Star Wars spoof. Like they're at a Comic-Con or a convention for this movie series. And they have reverse lightsabers. I can't even describe how dumb it is if you don't see the footage, but you're just like holding the stick, and then like the ends of it are what's electric.
Yeah.
So dumb, and they're having like I think it was called fire staffs.
Yes.
Fights. And I threw one in the pilot. I had Catsy design fire staff. We just it was such a funny call. We were just sitting there on a call. I was just like throwing her a bunch of random weapons from Transformers lore, and she was doing a bunch of them she wanted to. And I was like, do a fire staff. So that made it to the final cut. I think all my favorite things just are the weapons.
Yeah, that's great, because I'm pretty sure like one of them, like when they're after their ship blows up, you can see all the stuff flowing there. I'm pretty sure you can see like also like an Infinity Gauntlet flying around in there as well at some point.
Yeah, that's at the end. I had Catsy to the Infinity Gauntlet, and we came up with like the funniest names for them. Am I able to screen share?
I think you should be able to.
Let me open Adobe Animate, and that's gonna shrink me a little bit.
Okay.
But oh well. Just let me find. Whoops. Junkie on spoilers. Whatever. We came up with the funniest names for all the weapons. Let me scroll. Okay. Some of these were just like straight up like, this is the triple barrel ion shoulder cannon. That's from Cyberverse season 1. I
I remember that.
The name was Cassie did this one is just Shockwave.
Yeah, in gun form. That's great.
He wanted this is Shadow Striker's gun. The Shadow.
Oh, cool.
She did hers as the Shockster.
The Mega Meows.
The Mega Meows. She did this one. That's Tarn's robot. Okay. Squirt gun. Squirty. I think that was my idea. Okay, the Spark Extractor.
That's Prime, yeah.
That one was kind of obvious. Mm-hmm. Space Pistol. I think we just talked, it would just like shoot space or something. It never made sense. This was just a regular gun she did, and I changed it to be a slot machine. So my idea is like, this is something Swindle would sell, and it's a slot machine gun, and it only fires if you get 3 matching.
Oh, that would be great. That reminds me a lot of I was gonna say it reminds me a lot of the Swerve's My First Blaster from Worms. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you put that in the.
That is actually in there. Yeah. That is like 1-to-1 in it. Okay, this is animated Prime's axe, but we just like she kind of stylized it. We called it Slicey Boy. God, we were laughing so hard. That was like one of my favorite calls. Here it is.
There's the level fires.
Reverse lightsaber was the name we gave it. This is from Lego Mars Mission. This is like the aliens' guns, or there's like a Lego Mars Mission computer game, and that's like basically it was just from the front of a Lego ETX ship. I can send you the image.
Okay.
We're almost done. And then this is going to time out in like a minute, so I'll finish, hopefully.
Okay.
This is the phase shifter from Prime, obviously. Here, all their other angles of the Enigma combination.
Okay. Very Combiner War-esque design for it. And
yeah. That's the neutron bomb that he throws. Okay.
There's my first blaster. I remember seeing that.
This is from Lego Mars Mission as well. We called it the MX-69 Elevation Increaser. There's the turret.
Yeah, the inside turrets. There's the Infinity Gauntlet.
Infinite Snap Glove. High IQ Sword. This is Prime's blades from the Bay movies.
Okay.
Glass gas gun. That's what he sells in the beginning of the pilot. He came up with its design.
The Forge of McBonk from Prime.
The Forge of McBonk is what we called this one. The F-bomb. Death Bubbles.
Oh, this is great.
Great. It's I don't think we ever used this crate, actually. I think that was what Blastoff was stepped on. Casey just did his own in the thing. Okay. We call this blue thing. Which is the Cyber Planet key. Looks like we never filled.
Yeah, I remember it looks like that.
This is a plunger. Casey
called blue.
Cassie called it the Bloog. I don't know why. I think that's the last one. Yeah, so that was all the weapons we did for Combaticons.
All right.
And those are like my favorite Easter eggs. I was Google searching random things from all the shows to have her throw in, and then she on her end was just like drawing Shockwave. Oh
I
gosh,
love that.
I did Megatron as a gun.
Oh, what? Oh,
Megan.
that's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for showing all those weapons too. That was absolutely that was great getting to see them all like that. So that brings to thanks for that. So we're gonna move on to another question in regards to Easter eggs. In that case, then, do you have a favorite Easter egg that didn't make it into the pilot? Then
I think everything made it in that we were gonna have.
okay.
And we kind of got carried away with Easter eggs for this Junkion one. I don't want Combaticons to just be like a reference.
Yeah, I get that.
So for the Junkion one, just that scene, I actually I'm having them like pivot away and just have like no real Transformers references. So Jito was like, oh, let's have Kiss Player here. Let's have let's have our Weird Al accordion. And I'm like, no. Let's just have nothing.
Yeah, like I get that. You want to make it like your own identity. You don't want to just be, oh, hey, look, here's the thing. Do you remember the thing? That's the thing. Yeah, nostalgia bait.
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I had like an opposite prerogative. I realized there was one thing that I cut. I just replaced it with something else. It was like all the Transformers like shots of the continuities, and then it was a very last minute idea I had to specifically show continuities getting erased. Like first I showed RID 2015, then like Kiss Players got destroyed,
Bangers,
etc. Yeah, and so then what I had at first was the Romeo and Juliet laws.
Oh,
from Age of Extinction.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, so it's just like it shows the card, then I had the Mark Wahlberg Romeo and Juliet, huh? But then I decided that the Devastator one was more iconic.
Oh,
the enemy scrotum. So I put that one there instead. But the Romeo and Juliet card is still visible, like within Professor Princess's eyes.
Oh, that's great. In that case, I know you said for Junkions you're gonna pivot away from references, but would you like be if there could be like one Earthspark reference you could put into Combaticons, like whether it be it back in this episode or just a future episode, what would it be?
You know what's funny? I had this idea. There's like in that Junkion script, Swindle just like pulls some random piece of trash out of a pile. He's like, I'm gonna sell this, and I just now or like a few days ago, despite what I said, I had this idea. I was like, that should be like Nightshade's like weird ball thing he makes in the
the Smart Trainer, the Smart Trainer 5000.
I think so. I don't remember what it was called, but I was like, we should make it that thing. Yeah, I would have thrown Earthspark weapons into Combaticons had Earthspark existed. Obviously, that would have been the easiest thing to do. I love a lot of the characters. Twitch and Thrash.
Thrash is absolutely my favorite.
I got Twitch's toy.
Oh, no way.
I haven't even transformed it yet.
Favorite ADHD child.
I don't know. I could see myself putting her yellow blades.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, her like, absolutely love her design, and Thrash too, like with the fact that he uses his sidecar as a shield. Great.
It's cool. In terms of like, let's say Transformers Combaticons becomes, an actual series. Something that's important to me is like eventually Blastoff would actually find a partner that's right for him. My idea is like Onslaught's terrible. He's toxic, and Blastoff would come to realize that, and then later in the show, like season 2 or something, he would find someone who's right for him. Apparently, IDW2, I think Margaret Scott wrote like a Valentine's Day special where she did actually have Blastoff wind up with Cosmos.
Oh yes, she did. I love the Valentine's Day special.
Yeah, I think she wrote that, and I think that was like like redeeming or giving Blastoff someone he can actually have after making him gay in the previous IDW continuity. So Cosmos could be an option for that because of comic precedent. But I feel like Nightshade could also really work.
Nightshade, I think they'd be a great choice for Blastoff. Them or Cosmo, really. I honestly, I just love too how Blastoff and Cosmo were basically the last characters that end the IDW2 comic. That it ends with all the Autobots being kicked off Cybertron by Megatron, and they're gonna go to Luna 1 to basically like, oh, we're gonna win back Cybertron one day, even though IDW got canceled. So, but literally the comic ends. I remember distinctly. It's like literally Blastoff and Cosmos on a little date on the moon, getting ready for all the Autobots to come there, and it's literally the last shot of
the final panel. Yeah, someone on Twitter told me about the fact that Blastoff wound up with Cosmos because I hadn't read IDW2. I was like, oh, that's good for him. I had no clue that they got to do that to have Blastoff actually get a good person instead of Onslaught.
So that leads me to a question I totally forgot to mention back in like the non-spoiler section that I want to talk about now. So of course, obviously the fan response to Combaticons has been nothing but positive. I will say though, it's so cool also probably I bet to see how much fan art has been made of your designs. Like how would that to see like people actually taking like your designs and drawing them in their own styles?
It's so nice. I figured there would be some, but there's like it was a lot more than I was expecting. And I was really happy. It's just so cool to see like people care enough about like little Combaticons world to do that. And then Vortex's voice actress Maxine, or Moontruffle's art on social media, she's done like a ton of fan art just within like the Discord. I don't think she's put most of it online. Like most of it's just dumb shitpost stuff too, which is probably like she drew Blastoff dabbing.
Oh,
like,
that's great.
On model. No, that's right. I think she's going through one by one and just drawing all of them.
That's great. I think I remember you saying, like, I know you've shared a few of them on Twitter, I think. I remember, too, like, that, like, she even does, like, AMVs of them, like, the Combaticons.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, God. As someone who personally, like, loves, making, I love making fan trailers on my YouTube account just because I like to, like, use that sort of not only just a passion project, but also because I'm thinking, oh, well, this is a fun way to test my editing skills and all that. It's so delightful to see. Like I'm wondering, like, see the day will ever come, like, where you ever get like people writing fan fiction about your Combaticons.
Every day in the Discord server they are like Cody and Max and Jason, who's an artist who joined on the Junkie on one, and Nightbird's voice actress Joanna. They're all just coming up with all these ideas. And I made a lore ideas tab on the Discord so that I would have one tab I don't have to catch up on. But no, that's great. Just like every day they're like, oh, what if Blastoff and Vortex went to the grocery store and they're grapes. It's just like, so they're writing fan fiction about their own characters like every day.
Oh, that's great. No, God, man, like as someone like who's like really into like writing myself, like I've participated in like a few like Transformers writing events myself for fan fiction. Like, oh, it would be so cool to like just help to like write a story in your world. Honestly, that would be so cool.
I feel really good about like the universe that we've kind of laid a groundwork for.
Yeah,
because it's like it doesn't really, the pilot doesn't really cover that much like Cybertron lore, but my idea is that it's post-war, 1,000 years ago. The war, well, the Cybertron was just like dying, and the war ended, and then Optimus and Megatron were like, well, basically my idea is that they just disappeared. Like they disappeared from the galaxy for the last 1,000 years, and no one really knows where they are. And the reason the Combaticons get together is they're on a quest to find Megatron.
Oh, okay.
Like, all of their own reasons. Onslaught wants to like get him by his side and reignite the war. Vortex, meanwhile, she wants to kill him because she like hates.
Yeah, I get that.
Their Onslaught and Vortex have this like conflict of like, what's gonna happen when they find Megatron? She's gonna like kill him.
Yeah,
he's absolutely not gonna want that. Swindle just wants to set up like a payment plan. Blastoff wants to be like a part of history. He wants to be remembered and just not be like one of the millions of robots who die and have no legacy. But he's not like he's so he basically joins up with a team of terrorists, and he's not really thinking through the implications of like, I'm gonna be I'm causing so much death if this goes through. So that's Blastoff's reason for being there. I feel like Brawl, he's just bored. He was like,
absolutely.
We also had the idea like maybe he's gonna try to get Megatron to continue Humans Animated.
Yeah, the Humans Animated
Megatron would be like, I don't even work in the industry.
Yeah, I just love that whole thing.
Yeah, so that was our idea. Or that is my idea for like how, or the premise for the series. It's every episode they're on a quest to find Megatron, and they're searching the galaxy, and like Prowl and Strongarm from Cybertron are like hunting them. They're like trying to find them.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest issue facing Combaticons in terms of like making it real, this is what Randolph said yesterday, is like Hasbro's very married to Optimus and Bumblebee being in the forefront.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I'd be willing to make it like maybe there's a Bumblebee and Optimus are hunting the Combaticons every episode. And that's like a B story. It's like Optimus and Bumblebee are on their trail. I'd be willing to do something like that if it would work as a series. Though obviously I prefer like Optimus has been missing for 1,000 years.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think the best stories, I mean, as great characters as Optimus and Megatron are, it's really like, it's the coolest Transformers stories are when Optimus and Megatron really aren't at the forefront of them. Like, as we've said several times throughout this interview, Earthspark too, like having Optimus and Megatron take a backseat to focus on the Terrans and all these other characters is so cool. Like, I'm just thinking back to this batch of episodes, aside from like the one flashback episode where Megatron takes them all to the space bridge memorial and Optimus shows up in the flashback there. He hasn't showed up like once this whole
Optimus wasn't in batch 2. That was interesting to me. Yeah, I feel like Hasbro wants Optimus to be like at the forefront of like the first few episodes, and then they'll just like forget. So I feel like we could absolutely get away with just like having Optimus in like a pilot few episodes and then phasing him out and Hasbro wouldn't notice.
I think the fact that that Hasbro seems to be so okay with making Megatron a good guy in Earthspark is telling enough. Like, this, do you think like Earthspark today could have been made like 15 years ago back when animated came out? Absolutely not. So I think it's just so incredible to see like how, I guess, freer, like how much looser Hasbro was willing to be with like saying like, okay, like, yeah, we don't have to make this about Optimus and Megatron battling each other for the millionth time. We can tell new stories and stuff like that, and people will like it.
I guess I should say animated was like very famously loose. Like it was like you said, it was like a 5 a.m. time slot. Hasbro didn't care, Cartoon Network didn't care, which gave Marty and Derek, or Marty Eisenberg, Derek J. White, like the freedom to basically do whatever they wanted with that one. Hasbro didn't really start interfering. I mean, obviously there's a Hasbro who's like, let's put this toy in, etc. But they didn't really start like interfering until like at the end of season 3 when they needed the sidecar armor like injected back into the show. Then they really would have interfered with that 4th season when they would have added Ironhide, made Megatron the villain again, and all that stuff.
They wanted to give everyone the Bayverse color schemes and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I almost kind of feel like if they had wanted Megatron to be a good guy, maybe they could have gotten away with it. Just
maybe. I could see
one of the most hands-off Hasbro's ever been in the history.
Especially with think about End of Prime Megatron becoming good, and Megatron doesn't show up at all in RAT 15, so
that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. Wasn't that like, I may be misremembering or crossing wires, but I feel like there was like a reason that they couldn't bring Megatron back, because Hasbro didn't want him to be good at that time, right? Or am I
I don't remember, because like obviously they had Megatronus show up at the end of season 1 where basically sort of act as a surrogate Megatron. And then I remember distinctly in season 3 when they brought Soundwave back for the second time, his whole grand plan was that he was going to make like a giant space bridge to summon Megatron, but it never really goes anywhere. Like, did Megatron even want to be summoned or something like that?
Exactly. It was such a weird, like, yeah, RAD 2015 just forgets the fact that Megatron went good. Like, Starscream, when he briefly shows up, he's like, I hate you, Megatron, I'm so mad at you, even though he was a loyal lieutenant in season 3.
Yeah, and, like, exactly.
Yes, Megatron went good. What is Soundwave cooking? Like, he's not. Yeah, that was like one of the biggest dropped balls of RAD 2015.
Like, I was so looking forward to hopefully at some point, because I watched RAD 15 like weekly as the episodes came out. I was hoping like, oh man, season 3, we've got to see like old Hermit Megatron. Maybe like B goes to see him like, oh, you're the only one who can help us stop the Cybertronian Corrupt Council or stuff like that. And Megatron's like, oh, I've left Cybertron long behind with ghosts and stuff like that.
It almost feels like they were planning to. It's such a weird.
It really is
misstep that they didn't do.
Yes, same. Like and then they bring Bulkhead back in like the end for some reason, but like RC and Smokescreen are just a no-show, and like same with Ultra Magnus too. Like unless you don't count the I think it's like pretty much non-canon. Back when season 2 of RD 15, the IDW made like a tie-in comic where it's like Ultra Magnus, Bulkhead, and RC come to like catch some loose Decepticon that B forgot about. And there's a little like rivalry between Ultra Magnus and B, because Ultra Magnus wants to take over his team and all that because he thinks he's inexperienced. But it just kind of goes nowhere, because then Bulkhead shows up in season 3 and it's just totally not the events of the comic are even mentioned, and it's like acting like the first time they've seen each other since Prime ended. The comic's non-canon now, so
that happens a lot with comics. Like all the Bayverse comics are just contradicted by the movie. But to be fair, the movies are contradicted by the movies.
Yeah, especially.
So comics shouldn't take it too personally.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Going back on track to some last spoiler questions. There's 2 more I've got. First, the ending of the Combaticons, which I'm kind of confused on. By end, I mean the end where after Swindle tricks Professor Princess into basically deleting herself from existence, and then it ends with the whole like all of them back on their ship having like just watched like a big Basics episode on the Combaticons. Is that just implying that basically the whole events of the episode was just like a Basics episode on them?
Yes.
Okay.
My idea is just to kind of show like it's just a pilot, it's not canon to anything. I just thought it'd be funny. That was like a later in the process idea. Is just have it so they were watching the whole episode. None of it actually happened.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That was that was what I did for that. I think that came out like was one of the funniest bits.
It really was. What was it like getting Chris McFeely sign on for this? Like as like wasn't it like what's his name? Chris Spot McFeelytron or something like that?
Yes, that was the the dorky name I gave him. So yeah, that was not in like the original script. That was just something that kind of came in, and I was like, okay, I'm all right, expanding this to 11. I had this idea after most of it was storyboarded for just an easy way to have the exposition on a TV screen. It was like the whole core of it was just like Chris McFeely. Like we could have gotten in fact, I had the idea for Chris McFeely before all the voice actors recorded, and I had them like do like 2 takes of everything, or like 2 different versions of some lines, where it's like if Chris McFeely doesn't clarify what this fleet is and its relationship to the world ender, then I would have Onslaught say that earlier in the episode, like preparing in case he wasn't interested. So I asked him through his Patreon because I didn't know how else to contact him, and I failed to notice that his email is just on his channel. Find it, but I didn't know that. So it's on my channel too. I should know that as a YouTuber. Not. So yeah, I asked him through his Patreon, and I think he just didn't see it for a while because it was on his Patreon. Then eventually he noticed it. He's like, yeah, if that's still a thing, I'd love to. So then it's funny, it's like to the best of my ability, I wrote the lines as Chris McFeely sounding as I could. I was like, I'm sure you might want to tweak a few words here and there. And he just rewrote all of it. Except apparently I was not able to accurately capture his Chris McFeely way of speaking. But yeah, so it was just the exposition at the beginning, and then like he comes kind of in the middle, like right before the cliffhanger between Act 1 and 2, and then I throw him in at the end just for a rule of threes. And I think it was so funny. That was like half the comments on the video were like Chris McFeely. Yeah, no, you know what he reminds me of in a way, like his integration into the episode reminded a lot of how the Pokedex is injected into Pokemon. Like whenever a new Pokemon comes up and Ash pulls out his Pokedex and it reads like, oh, Butterfree, the butterfly Pokemon. That's literally how I felt whenever a new character got introduced in Combaticons. That's literally what was Chris Spot being the Pokedex of the Combaticons. And that was an idea I had never even thought of Chris McFeely like being part of the Combaticons story in my head until I was just like doing the pilot and had the idea. So now it's like, if Combaticons were to be a real show, and I don't know if he would have to like join a union or if it'd be a non-union show or whatever. There's probably a lot of like paperwork, waving things. But I'm just imagining like, what if he was just like a recurring newscaster character and he just like showed up from time to time?
I love that.
There's an episode where like they have to like raid his recording studio or something and like spread a message about Decepticon.
That's great.
Yeah, that's something I've just like, I don't know how we would integrate a Chris McFeely character, but that would be so funny.
You could have it like if it at every time a new character gets introduced in the series, just have Chris like do a little like small 30-second basics video on.
Yeah, that could like the show Moon Girl in Devil Dinosaur.
Oh yeah, I love that show. Yeah,
me too. And like the Beyonder, or Lawrence Fishburne's character, he just like you pop up to introduce every supervillain.
Exactly.
Like be their like comic book origin text panels. That could be a funny role for him too. And that way we wouldn't have to bother introducing new characters who they are through dialogue. We could just have Chris McFeely give exposition.
Exactly. It all works out.
Yeah.
So okay, and then last spoiler question, and then we're gonna move on to just a few questions about maybe like stuff you can maybe answer about Wrath of Junkion. So going forward with the series, you end the series teasing Nightbird and Astro Train. So what exactly is their role in the world of Combaticons to you?
Okay. I've always imagined them as like the series antagonists. Or I guess not always. What I've always imagined is that there's a Decepticon remnant on board Astro Train, and Astro Train's like kind of the second in command, even though he's stuck in ship mode.
Okay.
There's like a scary leader calling the shots. My original idea back in like 2018 was like Shockwave is the villain. Ooh, and then eventually I kind of realized like, I don't know, he's kind of overused, he's in everything. And then I had it as like a Rat Bat for a little while, and then it was what's funny is I think it was like Chris McFeely did the basics on Nightbird, and Nightbird popped in my head. I was like, perfect.
That's such a great idea, honestly.
Yeah, Nightbird has been like, she filled that role, and I've imagined Nightbird as like the main antagonist of the series, and she's gathering this like scary Decepticon remnant out in like the depths of space, and the Combaticons and their chaos, it keeps like kind of getting in the way. So Nightbird's like, oh, we gotta, get these guys under control.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So I feel, and then the voice actors, Cody, I think it was Astro Train's voice actor had the idea like, what if they're like married? Because I feel like a husband and wife villain team is like, you don't really see that often.
Yeah, it really felt like that they're like their little like banter in the end, like especially. It really sounds like an old married couple, and I love that.
Yes, so I think that would be the direction I go with it. I think Nightbird and Astro Train are married, and maybe Megatron's their ex or something.
Oh, that would be great.
Just because of that G1 history.
That's absolutely great.
That is in my head. They're like the main villains of season 1. I have ideas for what they'd kind of nefariously be doing throughout a series, and that's who they are. And I just because I figured this is probably like my only real chance to tell like a real episode with the Combaticons. I was like, I'll just throw them in the end because they have been in my head for years as like the main antagonist. So let's just show a glimpse of them.
Yeah, just get them out there, like so the fan would expect. All right, well, thank you for answering all those questions. I really enjoyed it. But let's see now what you can talk. So this was where the interview was supposed to end, but then of course I had to delay it a bit, and then that's when you announced Wrath of Junkions. So I'm super excited for that, and I'm hoping you can answer. Like, I know you can't really tell us anything because then you'd be spoiling the whole short, but let's see what I can get out of you without spoiling. So first off, why the Junkions for your next chapter in the Combaticon story?
I've had this solid concept for them for years. They're like dangerous, garbage-obsessed religious fanatics. So it kind of tells about this in the short, but my idea has always been that they're like normal Cybertronians, and then during the war they get shot down on this empty, barren wasteland planet, like that droid arc from Clone Wars season 5.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
A void, and then they're like fading out. They're like all dying, cannibalizing each other, and then all of a sudden garbage falls out of the sky, and they've been praying to Primus. Like, Primus, what is the answer? And then garbage just lands next to them. And then they're like, Primus wants us to worship garbage! And they're like slowly going insane after being abandoned on this planet. And what actually happened is that, I don't know, the Federation or whatever, some space organization just started using it as like a landfill planet.
Yeah, so, that's great.
When they find Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, or the planet from Thor Ragnarok, the garbage lands on. There's just garbage ships in orbit, dumping garbage onto this landfill, and the Junkions are just the only people down there, and they're like, Primus has sent us garbage, and
that's
they're
hilarious.
Going insane. So that's been in my head for years, and I guess I won't say too much, but this episode concept I've had is essentially a retelling of Bot that starts with the Junkions. Like BOT1, the one where all their personality or all their body parts get sent across, and Swindle has to collect them. And it's the biggest wasted potential because that's all condensed into like 4 minutes, and the rest of the episode is some random thing with teenagers in high school. But my idea has always been, it starts with the Junkions on this landfill planet, and then they get like stripped apart. All the Combaticons, except for Swindle, who like kind of betrays them, and they're like shot across the entire galaxy, all their body parts, and then Swindle would go on this quest to find all their body parts. So then there'd probably be like another showdown with the Junkions at the end. So this has been like a retelling of Bot episode that's been in my head for years, and what Wrath of the Junkions is basically like Act 1 of that episode. And I just really wanted to do.
It definitely sounds really exciting.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just a strong concept that I wanted to do something with for a long time.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. And you said that you're shooting for like a late 2024, summer, fall 2024 release, right?
I was thinking like 2023.
Okay. Sorry, I totally misremembered. It's been a while since I've seen.
Like within 365 days, roughly, if we get all the funding. And right now, I'm not sure if we're going to, but I feel like worst case scenario, we just have like a board only short. And like that, and that could work.
Yeah, totally. So in so you've shown how like Wreck-Gar is going to be playing a big role in this short. Is there anything you can tell us about how your version of Wreck-Gar will compare or differ to other versions of him in the franchise?
Yeah, I think he's a lot more like maybe the G1 version than animated. Well, specifically, like I said, like most people, I always think of just G1 the movie. Just in G1 the movie, he's kind of this like wild card, kind of dangerous guy, and I guess he's more harmless in the actual cartoon or like this show that follows. But so yeah, I think he's like a dangerous cult leader, and he is just everyone worships him, and they all worship garbage together, and he's completely unhinged. And I imagine he's a lot, maybe the most dangerous version of Wreck-Gar that would have been
Okay.
seen. And he's still like fun, but
Yeah, so that reminds me a lot actually of IDW1 Wreck-Gar. I'm not sure if you
oh, I have not read those actually, but I know what you're talking about in Optimus Prime.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say too much in just in case like I don't want to spoil it, but the sound of it feels very similar to IW Wreck-Gar, where he is still a goofhead, but he's at like arguably the most competent of all the Wreck-Gars in terms of.
Yeah, okay, that's right. I forgot that existed, but yeah, it's probably in line with that.
Okay, all right, definitely excited for that then. Okay then. So that's pretty much everything I had. I just do have one more question though, just in general. So you've had just this crazy, incredible journey of making Combaticons and pursuing your career of being an animator. Who I'm assuming your dream job probably is like to one day get Combaticons to be its own series, or at the very least, I could imagine like, would you be okay with like it becoming like a comic book at the very least?
Oh yeah, no. Oh my God, I would love a comic book. Like I'm not gonna be picky. If it could become real somehow, I'd love that.
Okay, so yeah, in regards to that then, considering like all this, everything you've done so far in regards to getting to where you are now with producing Wrath of the Junkions, do you have any advice you'd want to give to people who maybe look up to you or are just starting out as animators or have their own idea for wanting to get into the animation industry, whether it be as a writer, an animator, a director, storyboarder, to want to give to like how to best make their dreams a reality?
Yeah, I as someone who's not quite like there yet, but considers myself on the way there, I feel like a huge asset is social media and like the ability to like reach out to creators who've never been more accessible. I would say like if you reach out to someone and they don't respond, then like don't bother them. I was very bad at online interactions throughout like the first year or two of me being online, like 2020, 2021. I was very awkward and I had a lot of embarrassing interactions that I deleted from Twitter.
We've all been there.
Yeah, no, we've all been there. I would say for me, like the biggest asset I've really had is interviewing people, because that's like the biggest way to connect with people. Like I interviewed Randolph Hurd when Cyberverse was kind of wrapping up, and I was the first person who'd ever interviewed him about Cyberverse, and I think that made him happy. And now we talk like, I don't know, off and on, semi-regularly. We just call each other.
That's awesome. Like,
yesterday.
Oh man, like I bet you'd probably be like so awesome. Like we call it like, oh yeah, I'm friends with Mr. Randolph Hurd, creator of Cyberverse. Just pull out that like boast card for whatever you want to.
I try not to boast about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he like considers me like a friend, but he's like my main like industry mentor.
Yeah,
like
I get that.
Maybe I don't know. I'm considering I'm like less than half his age. I think I'm just a guy, like a kid he likes. But yeah, and I don't know. I guess try to grow a platform where people know who you are, because that gives you kind of, I guess, power or maybe social capital. Interviewing people has been like one of the most helpful things. I didn't even realize that at first. Like when I interviewed Marty Eisenberg about Transformers Animated, I had no clue you could use this as a networking tool. So I just asked him questions for 3 hours and never brought up the fact that I want to work in. And don't be weird about it.
Yeah, like, of course.
But yeah, so don't expect things from people though. Don't expect people to just like give you an opportunity and like start your career. Like you kind of have to do the work to do that. And to be honest, I don't quite know how to do that yet. Like I'm not kind of at a crossroads where it's like I could move to Burbank if I wanted and get animation industry work, but like I'm so happy doing YouTube. I'm making a living from YouTube, paying cheap rent in random parts of Oregon, in a random part of Oregon. And it's like I can do my own self-funded web projects or I could go to Burbank and sell all of my ideas and have no control and be expendable and replaceable.
Be a cog in the corporate machine.
Yes, that's what Randolph was saying, actually. Like, that's kind of what I was talking to him about yesterday. And he was like, there's so much value in what you're doing just in Springfield. Like, I think you should stay where you are. And that was like, he's so kind. Oh my God, I love him. He's like so...
I saw your interview with him. He sounds like such an amazing dude.
Oh my gosh, he's been so helpful to me and like the most supportive dude ever over the last couple years. Like, I cannot express how much I appreciate Randolph Heard. So yeah, I'm just kind of like rambling through this. I've never had to answer a question like this before. Make things that are kind of impressive to people, because like, you know, for example, I don't really respond to DMs. I haven't really opened my DMs in like a year and a half. So if it's just like, you know, someone from the internet contacts me, it's, you know, no disrespect or anything, but it's just like I'm kind of shy socially, social anxiety, and I just don't really open that kind of thing. But let's say like, I don't know, a YouTuber you like contacts you, or you happen to see it, that would be like, ooh, you know, like when I first got to know like Paper Plane and Commandant Cam, that was so exciting because like, you know, seeing the things they've made. And then like on a similar level, like Josh Perez and Josh Burcho, when they first followed me, that was huge. I was like, no way, this is Derek White's.
Yeah.
And it's just, they just liked the things I made and that I was animating. They could see like kind of what I was doing. So I feel like even if it isn't good yet, like the things that caught the attention of like Josh Burcham and Josh Perez, I don't think they were even good at all. But like they liked them, I guess, and they, you know, followed me, and you kind of know each other now. And I feel like even if it's bad, like even if you start out making Transformers animated storyboards that are the worst thing in the world, start somewhere, make things, and eventually other creators will find you. And that's like the best way to connect with them, is to kind of prove like you have creative value and that you actively do things. And I guess just find people that you like connect with. So like for me, like Marty Eisenberg, he answers my emails and stuff. We know each other. He's never really been like an industry mentor. He's kind of just here to like answer whatever animated questions I have, and that's like kind of the full extent of our relationship. Whereas someone like Randolph Heard, so willing to just like connect and just like advise me and just be, I guess, friend / mentor. So it's like find the people that kind of are willing to work with you and engage with you. And I am so lost. I'm just rambling.
No, I totally get that.
But I think you get the idea.
Oh, I totally do.
Like, make things and connect with people, and that's how you kind of climb the ladder. And I'm at like one of the bottom rungs of the ladder, but
you're on the ladder though. That's
I'm
what's
on
important.
the ladder, I think.
Now you just gotta focus on getting all the way up there.
Yeah.
But at the rate you're going, I think you're gonna be there in no time, dude.
I hope so. A lot of people have kind of said that, like, I guess ahead of pace, which is maybe like turtle in the hair my way and just, like, chilling and doing nothing. But whatever. And
just last thing. So again, thank you so much for all of this. It really means a lot to me. Are there any other, like, I know like this is all about Transformers, but are there any other non-Transformer projects though coming up maybe that you can talk about you're a bit excited for?
Yeah. I've been trying to work on another like original pilot that I might animate, like which is kind of like a paranormal like ghost hunting, cryptid hunting.
Oh, I think I saw him Ball Pit B. He put on his Instagram stories. It's called like paranormal, something like that.
Not normal.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
We've been calling it. And Randolph was like helping me with that too. I just gotta like the character dynamics. I need to like take a step back and like maybe redo and redefine them. But like I've written a couple episodes and I think I need to restructure some things. It's in early development, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how long that would take, or maybe it won't. Maybe I'll like kind of brush it aside. But that's something that I've been working on a lot, and I'm really happy with. And one more thing, I guess I'll announce it here. I've never announced this.
Okay.
This is,
all about Sonic First here.
Yeah, I've been doing a Gravity Falls fan episode.
Wow, really?
Year. It's storyboard only, but I've got like industry storyboard artists who have been working on it.
That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's like a 22-ish minute Gravity Falls storyboard episode called Return to the Bunker, which takes place in like late season 2. I'm gonna announce it and doing a casting call soon because the storyboard is like done. Like there's just like
that's
2
awesome.
scenes we're waiting on. The whole episode is storyboarded. And so basically I'm just gonna announce it on my big channel, do a casting call for it, plug the voices in, maybe have Catherine do some post-processing and release it. So that'll be in like the next few months, like, and then it'll be like done. So that it all goes according to plan.
That's super awesome. Super excited. Well, you guys heard it here first. That's definitely a project. Like, again, I was a huge fan of Gravity Falls back in the day. I remember watching like every episode of season 2, especially the Weird Mageddon finale. So excited watching that, and man, it's gonna be so cool to see what you do with that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is assuming your video goes up before I make like any sort of announcement. This would be the first time that's on the internet.
Thank you so much for answering all my questions, and I definitely think that it's so cool to hear like the process behind making Combaticons and all that, and your plans for the future of this franchise, and just your love for the Transformers as a whole has influenced your creation in this.
Thank you. Yeah, it all just comes back to I've loved Transformers since I was a kid. Like, you know, it's not the best, but it matters to me, and that I guess that all kind of boils down and goes back to that.
Yeah, I might be a little late bloomer. Like, I was a big fan of the Unicron trilogy when I was a child, but then I fell out after the first Bayverse movie came back when I was like 16 with RAD 15, but I've been hooked ever since. So even though I'm a bit late into it, though, it's great having it here, and I'm super excited. It really has influenced a lot of what I want to do as a writer as well.
Thank you so much. Like, that means a lot. Just to hear people like be like, wow, this inspired me as a writer. It makes me feel good because I don't know, I'm just a guy. I just exist.
Exactly, and
I kind of,
that's how I feel like when people like my stuff. It's awesome. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching, and special thanks again to Keyan Carlile for coming on. It was so great having you. Thank you all so much for watching this, and be sure to go ahead and follow Keyan Carlile on both his Transformers channel and his other channel as well for all your latest stuff on Transformers Combaticons, other Transformers projects, and I'm sure whatever next big Disney project or whatever other cartoon he's really interested in talking about next.
And so, the Wrath of the Junkie on Kickstarter, or what's it called?
Oh yes, yeah, it's definitely go check out the Indiegogo.
Seeing more Combaticons, donate some wealth.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put a link to it, your Indiegogo, in the description. Totally.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for watching.
And I might know what our future, but then you still control the past.